My friend Selena. Where's Selena? Selena's my friend Selena came. She says, we're having this talent show, and you need to do something, Jay. And I told her, Selena, I don't have any talent. Just do anything. It's church. They'll forgive you. Why don't you sing? So I said, all right, I'll sing. So I picked out this emotionally powerful song that the Lord uses to speak to me. It's called "The Climb" by Miley Cyrus. And I was over by Pastor's house, and I thought I'd give him a little preview. Right, so I'm singing. 30 seconds in, Pastor Valerie has the Bible. Get thee behind me, Satan. I don't know how to take this, and then Pastor Nelson, he ran and got the Crisco oil. The power of Christ compels you to stop singing. The power of Christ compels you to stop singing. So I decided, I was like, guys, I'm starting to get the idea you don't want me to sing. Before they could respond, Naomi walked in. She was crying. She had what I thought was a stuffed animal in her hand. Your singing killed my dog. So I told Selena, look, Selena, I can't sing. Your Pastor Nelson thinks I'm demon possessed and an innocent dog is dead. So you know, she's like, you think you're funny? I said, I do. She says, why don't you do something? So I will, but this is dedicated to the memory of Scrappy. All right, so I wrote a couple of jokes, right? I didn't realize it. Maybe I should have practiced. All right, so I'm looking. You know, on second thought, this joke might be completely inappropriate for church. But I'm not going to do that one. So I don't want to just start by telling a story. This is a true story about Pastor Nelson and myself.
No!
I call this story The Man of God, the Humble Servant, and the Screwdriver. It's a true story. It's appropriate. Right? It's a true story. And Pastor Nelson is the Man of God represents Pastor Nelson. I'll represent the humble servant, and the Screwdriver represents a screwdriver. Right? So it's a Saturday morning. I'm home, and I get a phone call. Hello, humble servant speaking. Hello, Man of God. Yeah. Let me see if I understand. You want me to spend my entire day off doing hard physical labor that I am not skilled to do for absolutely no monetary reward whatsoever. I'll be right over. So I get there, we're at somebody's house, and our job is to sand the floor. And my specific task is to remove the billions and billions of nails and staples that are in the wooden floor. Right, because it'll ruin the sandpaper machine. And for this, I get a screwdriver. Right, so I'm on my knees, I'm working as hard as I can. A few minutes go by, and the Man of God speaks. Okay. In his heavenly wisdom, he says, you're going to have to work harder than that. So I look at him, and I'm like, maybe a screwdriver is not the best tool for this job. And his words, dripping with the anointing of the Holy Ghost, he doesn't miss a beat. He says, a good craftsman never blames his tools. So I look back at him and I was like, but I'm a bad craftsman, and these are your tools. So he looks at me, and he says, touche. Right? So now I got a pair of pliers, and I'm working, I'm having a little bit more luck. A couple of minutes go by, and he says, hey, give me the screwdriver, I want to put it away. And I was like, sure. I lost it. And the Man of God became angry. What do you mean you lost a screwdriver? He started to complain. How do you lose a screwdriver? You only had it 2 seconds. Where could it have gone? There's not even any furniture in here. Right? So I quickly realized, I understand why he's angry. He's a nice screwdriver. It was worth $3, maybe $4. Right? So I'm looking, and I can tell by the way he's complaining that I'll have better luck finding the screwdriver than I will for finding forgiveness for losing the screwdriver. So now I'm looking in the backyard, in the basement, in the bathroom, places I've never been with or without the screwdriver. So obviously I don't find it. Finally, the Man of God says, I still see lots of nails and staples in the floor. The humble servant responds, my Lord, I halted thy splintering labor to search for the object your heart desires and so richly deserves. At this point, he mumbles something about, if you want a job done right, takes the pliers, and he kneels down to finish the work himself. But as he kneels, something in his pocket pokes him in an uncomfortable place. He pulls this. So what is he? So he says, "Guess what I found in my pocket?" And I look at him and I say, "Let's go." All right. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that when a man of God has a problem, he needs to stop complaining and get on his knees. I think that's funny. Maybe it's not that funny. I guess you had to be there. I love when somebody says, "You ruined my joke. Just pretend it wasn't funny." All right. So, when somebody says you had to be there, what they really mean is, "That's not funny. I'm sorry. I wasted your time." So, as a Christian, the right response is, "I forgive you. You had to be there. I forgive you." Right? The other funny thing that people say, people like to say, "That's not funny," and they almost always say that with a big smile on their face, because what they really mean is, "That is funny, but I'm embarrassed to admit it." And then I also love when people say, "My friends think I'm funny." What that really means is, my friends have lied to me my entire life. So here, let me give you an example, all three, right? I'm in church, I'm like 10 years old, and there's somebody giving a testimony about a men's retreat, and he's, telling a story that's supposed to be funny. It goes something like this. He goes, "And everybody thought Brother Steve was praying, but he really just fell asleep." No laughter, right? There's no laughter in the congregation. "Everybody thought he was interceding because his head was bowed, his hands were folded, but he was just taking a nap." No laughter. Finally, time to abandon ship. I guess you had to be there. Now the whole congregation is quiet. Why? Because they're thinking, "Dear Lord, help me to forgive this man." Right? So during this elongated, awkward pause, we hear a sound a few rows away, and we hear, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say, somebody farted. So, I'm 10, my brother's 13, what do you do when somebody farts? My dad looks at us and he says, "Hey, that's not funny." And my mom, she doesn't miss a beat, she's like, "And that's why they call them pews." And of course, nobody laughs harder at my mom's jokes than my mom. So she finally catches her breath and she says, "My friends say I'm funny." They do, Mom. They do. We do have lots of weird names for things at church. I mean, one moment we are standing on holy ground, and the next moment I'm sitting on an uncomfortable pew. Because my least favorite name of something in church, though, is the collection plate. Right? Because it's not a collection plate. You don't take offering in a collection plate. A collection plate is something that's got like Dale Earnhardt Jr. on it, or the cast of Wizard of Oz, and you buy it on the Home Shopping Network. The 3 wasted payments of $19.99 at grandma's house in a curio or on a shelf, and they have no purpose. It's a dish with no purpose. It's just for show, which is the exact opposite of an offering. It has God's purpose, and the last reason you should give is for show. So I don't care what you call it. I'm done with collection plate. You can call it offering basket, blessing bucket, donation box, tithe tin, tax write-off thingy. Just not a collection plate. I think my favorite term, though, in church is Sunday school. Because I like to think, like 50 years or 100 years ago, there's a bunch of Christians in a room, and they're like, "We need to come up with a term for school on Sundays." Finally, one brilliant Christian is like, I got it. Hear me out. Sunday school. The place erupts in chatter. "That's brilliant. I like the alliteration. He is blessed with the gift of naming things." Somebody's like, "So we're not going with church basement college?" The pastor's like, "No, Sunday school it is. Let's get out of here. I got Wednesday work tomorrow." And maybe the most annoying term, it's not in every church, but the church I grew up in, Queens Tabernacle, had what was called an anteroom. That's an anteroom. If you ask me what an anteroom is, I would say outside. And a room is the ante outside. That's what it is to me. I don't know what that means. One time I got in trouble for being too loud in the anteroom. "Don't be so loud in here, it's the anteroom." I'm like, I don't even know what an anteroom is. I sure as heck don't know the anteroom rules. Right? "Don't talk to me that way, I'm a deacon." Ooh, the freaking deacon's speaking. As soon as I hear myself say this, I see my father rushing across the room with a look of total condemnation on his face.
No!
Bah! How dare you!
That sounds like that.
All my life, you've been telling me to respect my elders. Never once did you say, respect my deacons. Bah! What does he follow that? Be quiet. You're giving me a headache. I'm thinking, I'm giving you a headache. Not to be outdone, I say, Dad, well, how do you justify bashing my head in the holy anteroom? He says, Proverbs 13:24. He who shows his son discipline shows him love. He who does not shows him hate. I was like, oh, fantastic. Dad, Matthew 7:5. Let he remove the plank from his own eye, so he may see clearly enough. I don't even know if I finished. I woke up 2 days later in Jamaica Hospital. And trauma. What's the moral of this story? Is that when your father says respect your elders, he really means respect your elders, respect your deacons, respect your preachers, respect your pastors. Basically anybody, anywhere in your church wearing a tie. The preachers are the easiest to make fun of, though. Because they're always out there, they're very animated, they're basically like Italian actors. They ask hard questions like Robert De Niro, they whisper for effect like Marlon Brando, they yell for no reason like Al Pacino. Let me give you an example. You're watching a movie with Italian actors, here are some things you might hear. You talking to me? You talking to me? I'm gonna make you an offer. You can't refuse. Hoo-ah! Now here's some things you might hear if you're listening to a preacher. Now pay careful attention to him as well. You might miss it. Is God talking to you? Is God talking to you tonight? He is offering you everlasting life. Hallelujah! Then you've got some preachers who are the over-explainers, the extra exemplars. I used to have one pastor, we'll call him Pastor Dave. Every Sunday, he would say, Brother Jay, come up here. He'd be like, it's like there's a wall between you and God. Let me explain to you what a wall is. Brother Jay, come up here. Go like this, go like this. And I'm thinking, if they didn't know what a wall was before, this ain't helping. But lastly, I got to talk about everybody's favorite preacher in this room. It is Nelson Baez. No. Pastor Nelson Baez. So Pastor Nelson is an excellent man. He's an excellent preacher. But sometimes when he preaches, I think two things that are not so nice. The first is, over the years, you put on a few pounds.
Very sensitive issue.
Oh, sorry. There's a lot of White Castle in there. The second is, this guy preaches for a long time. He's a wordy guy. I mean, even the name of this church has more words than the book of James. Anyway, so here's my solution. I have a solution. On Thursday, much White Castle as you want. On Sunday, preach as long as you want. But when you give your sermon, you have to give it from a treadmill. I would also like to recommend an incline during football season. Well, let's think about it. The congregation can chase after the heart of God while you chase after the heart you had 20 years ago. The congregation can feel the fire of the word while you feel the burn. Think of the impact your words will have when you say things like, God, I want more of you and less of me. All right, guys. My friend Sam Funny.